Welcome to writingalong.com. Today's episode is all about not telling people that you're writing a book. There's actually kind of a hidden benefit in that, which is that you will derive a lot of your joy from telling people about writing, talking to people about how you're writing a book. And it's still something you can enjoy, especially after you're done. The thing is, it's such a significant part of it. And there's a lot of it in writing, so it being significant, I really mean it. You're going to be tempted to just talk about it to everybody. But the thing is, because it's such a large chunk of it, when you do, before you're even finished, you might lose motivation. You're going to lose motivation. I'm just going to tell you straight up, you're going to lose your motivation. You're going to you're not going to really know why you lost it. You're just going to kind of stop. You're going to tell everybody in every conversation you have, oh yeah, I'm writing my book, I started my book, I'm going to finish my book, blah, blah, blah. And then, guess what? You never do it. Because, again, most of the fun was telling people, because you haven't really written enough to really know how much fun it is to write on its own, too. You just don't want to spoil it. You don't want to, you got to be conscious of that, that trend that it follows, that path when you're writing a book. Really any creative art too, but especially book writing, because it's just, isn't it so tempting? Oh yeah, what have you been up to? It's small talk, Oh, just writing a book, I'm writing. Oh, what's it about? Oh, blah, 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 blah. I'm on page this, I'm on page that. Yeah, it's about this and about that. This is what I really, that kind of enthusiasm that you're feeling as you're talking about it. You just be aware of what direction you're putting it in. Are you putting it on the page, or are you putting it into nothingness? Are you just sending it into a void of small talk? If you really have a deep discussion with somebody about it, I believe it can develop and foster your growth as a writer, and whatever you're writing will definitely come out stronger in the end if you're able to share and have those conversations with people you trust and who understand where you're coming from, and they know where they're coming from, and that kind of whole thing. But otherwise, if you're just bringing it up to just anybody, people who don't know you really, people you kind of know, maybe it's even worse as far as losing the motivation. It's really just like talking to a void, because what they're saying too isn't really at the level of, something having that kind of significance, having that kind of weight to it. And just in terms of intention, in terms of, intentionality, but also just impact. What are you trying to create? Most conversations do not really enter that realm. They don't. If you have a circle of people where that's all you talk about, congrats to you, but I have a feeling even people you're really close to, you can talk to really deeply, you don't always just talk to them about this kind of stuff, this heavier stuff. And writing a book, it really is, not because it's so profound, but it's a little different, and not everyone's writing. Of course, if you're just around writers, it might feel like that, but I bet you even if you're around a bunch of writers, not all of them are even writing a book. Or even trying to. They just like talking about it and thinking about it. Good for them. Good for them if that's what they want to do. But I think you want to write a book. I think you want to actually finish what you start. I think you want to talk about it, but you also want to actually do it. And like I said, a little hidden thing that may be stealing your motivation is telling others who, I don't want to say they don't matter, but in the context, it's just your book doesn't matter. Why are you bringing it into that conversation? It's the wrong context, and it, much like whatever you told them else about your day or random other small talk, it dies. It doesn't stay in your long-term memory. Your book, your enthusiasm kind of wanes out too. It's not developed and grown from that conversation. So I've experienced that, and I know a lot of people experience that too. I've heard writers do it right in front of me. I'm like, careful who you tell, and I hear them talk about it, and guess what? They don't finish their book. It's not necessarily talking that's the problem. It's just where it's being put into. Enthusiasm, it's wavering. It's not something you can always rely on. You can't just hope it's there tomorrow. It's most likely going to be fleeting. It's going to be gone if you don't really, keep it and hold it and just be close to it and build it within yourself. Let out, you make a sound and it echoes, right? Well, if you shout out into an amphitheater, it'll be amplified. Shouted into poorly, like no acoustic treatment out in the open, just open air, guess what? It's barely even heard, and it dies with the wind. It just floats away, and that's that. But it's one thing to let it out in a performance setting where it's acoustically treated. It's built with sound in mind. They had amphitheaters in ancient times where speak there, highest seat, all the way on the top, all the way up there. They hear it pretty clearly what's being said, context, and talking to the wind. No one hears it. It's gone, just like that. Record it. Now that's something. Recording sound, that's something kind of new. I mean, if you believe some ancient civilization came up with a sound recorder way back then, good for you. I don't necessarily believe that, but it's possible. I could say that. I don't know for sure, but I know it's here now, and that's what you're doing with your writing. You're capturing something that otherwise would have been fleeting. Like I've said in my other videos, you're listening to things around you. You're tuning in as a writer, and you're receiving and you're transcribing what's coming through you as it's being put through you and as it's coming out. Breathe in, breathe out. Your thoughts, your brain is doing the same thing. Your body's doing the same thing with all these things. People write about what they know, right? They write about what they're around. People become what they're around. That whole sense comes into play here. What you surround yourself with is what's going to come out. Some things you don't have a choice. You don't really have a choice what country you're born in, do you? What city you're born into, the people, your parents, your family. Maybe you don't have parents or family. All this stuff. You don't. But there's people around you. Some you have to be, some you choose to be. But all of that influences what's going on here. And it's going to influence what you're writing. So, again, be careful how you're letting that out. If you want to give it a direction. Some people live, they just breathe in, they breathe out. It's like a tree. They get carbon dioxide, put out oxygen. I legitimately believe trees are wonderful. They're beautiful contributions to the earth. Very necessary. And I think some people are like trees. They receive and they let out, receive and they let out, just into the air. And that's okay. That's not bad. That's not a bad way to live. If anything, it's probably a little less stress than being a writer, right? Even being a writer, you don't necessarily choose that. It just kind of, there are choices you make as a writer, but to be called to it, to really enjoy it, to feel like it's in you, that happens because the force is outside of your own control, but you know it when it's in you. And I have a feeling it is if you're still watching this right now, still listening right now. There's a little more activity in terms of what you're doing with these signals and things that you're receiving inside you. And again, as a writer, you are bringing them into your own mind, into your own sense of self, into your own identity, into your own vocal chamber here. And they're echoing inside you, these ideas, and the sound is growing more and more intense. It's becoming more and more and more. And are you just gonna goodbye? Or are you going to direct it towards something? You're going to direct it to a page, to pages, to chapters, to entire books, to a life's work. Now, there's a great feeling you get in between, especially after finishing a book, because then it's like you get a sense of freedom. You're like, okay, I can just kind of live and experience this. But again, you desire that again as a writer, where it's like, well, I want to direct all this stuff again. And it doesn't mean you have to shut yourself out from the world. It doesn't mean that at all. I mean, go live. Enjoy yourself, but just be careful who you talk to writing about. Make sure that if you're having a discussion with somebody about what you're up to on the page, typewriter, keyboard, wherever you're writing, make sure that if you're talking to them, they know what it's all about. The conversation is right. They're feeling the same kind of thing. They understand what you mean and the significance of what it is you're doing, because there is a significance to it. You're creating a mass of intention, of otherwise scattered, discordant sounds and thoughts and ideas, and you're making it into something. That's gravity. That's not in the traditional sense of, physics, right? But I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a sheet, right? It's a very common explanation of gravity. It's relevant. And you put something in the center. That thing is really heavy. So it distorts the gravity, right? Distorts it, just kind of creates like that. And so anything around it will circle into it. That's what you're doing when you create a book. Your book is that mass, and other things are going to kind of gravitate towards it. You hear people say, like, I gravitate towards it, I gravitate towards it. Yeah, that kind of mass, that kind of collection of intention, that sort of force that is really prevalent. And it's not hidden. It's not something that, may or may not exist. That legitimately exists to the point where people say, oh yeah, I gravitate towards that. The actual word used in common conversation. So I don't really like to just talk theory stuff on here. I mean, legitimately, what you're creating it's a little serious, even if the topic isn't that serious. Treat writing like it is, because otherwise you're going to get lost in that. You're going to get absorbed right into something else, and you're going to lose what you were creating before it even really started. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to finish your book. Check out my guide at writingalong.com, how to write a book in 30 days. Completely free guide, by the way. I want you to grab your free copy, and I want it to haunt your inbox, which is what I usually say. And that is really just going to be what you need. Not a simple, do this, do that. Just, it's what you need to get in the right mindset and beyond mindset to actually do it. All right, so I will see you in the next episode. As always, I want to thank you for tuning in and thank you for taking the time to watch this. And I'll see you around. Thanks for tuning in.